It's a quiet morning. Sunlight gently peeks through the kitchen window. The kettle hums as it comes to a boil, and you're preparing what you believe is a healthy breakfast. Maybe a slice of whole grain toast, a boiled egg, and a side of steamed vegetables. A routine you've come to trust, one that you think keeps your brain sharp day after day. We've all been told, eat your greens, they're good for your memory. And it's true. Vegetables are packed with antioxidants, vitamins, and fiber that help support brain function, especially as we age. But here's something you might not have heard before. Not all vegetables are actually good for your brain, especially after the age of 60. In fact, some of the vegetables you eat every day, yes, vegetables could quietly be speeding up memory decline if you're not careful. I know it sounds surprising. Many of these foods have a healthy reputation. They show up in your salads, your dinner soups, your roasted veggie trays. But here's what science is finding. The aging brain doesn't respond to food the same way it did 30 or 40 years ago. What was once beneficial may now burden your system. For example, certain vegetables are high in nitrates that can affect blood flow to the brain. Others contain compounds that block nutrient absorption or interact negatively with medications. Some can even carry bacteria your body might not be strong enough to handle anymore. So in today's video, we're going to take a closer look at 3 vegetables that are often thought to be good for your brain, but might actually accelerate memory loss if eaten the wrong way. But don't worry, I won't just point out the problems. We'll talk about practical steps you can take, how to prepare them, how much is too much, and when you might want to avoid them altogether. Because the goal here isn't to scare you into giving up your favorite foods. It's to understand how your body changes with age, so you can adjust your diet in a gentle, smart way that supports your brain, your energy, and your peace of mind. So let's head into the kitchen together. We'll start with the first vegetable one that nearly every household in America keeps in the fridge, but few truly understand when it comes to brain health. Kale, a superfood that's not super for everyone. In today's world of health trends, it seems like every week a new superfood takes the spotlight, and kale has been one of the biggest stars of them all. You see it in smoothies, salads, stir-fries, and even baked into chips. With its deep green color and sturdy texture, kale looks like the ultimate food for longevity and mental sharpness. But here's the truth that doesn't get talked about enough: what's considered healthy for younger people may not always be right for older adults. And kale, for all its benefits, can become a problem if you're over 60 and not careful with how much you eat. You see, kale is packed with vitamin K. Just 1 cup of raw kale contains over 600% of the recommended daily intake. That's great for blood clotting if you're healthy and not taking any medications. But if you're on blood thinners like warfarin, which many seniors are, it can seriously interfere with how those medications work. Too much vitamin K can reduce the effectiveness of your prescription, increasing the risk of blood clots or uncontrolled bleeding. And either one of those outcomes can directly impact blood flow to your brain, putting your memory and overall cognition at risk. There's another lesser-known issue too. Kale contains a compound called goitrogens, which when consumed in large amounts, especially raw, can affect your thyroid. And the thyroid is responsible for regulating metabolism, including how efficiently your brain gets energy. When your thyroid is sluggish, you may start feeling foggy tired or even depressed without realizing that your brain fog might be starting in your salad bowl. I remember hearing about an older gentleman in California who shared that he drank kale smoothies every day, thinking it was a brain-boosting ritual. After a few weeks, he found himself struggling to focus, misplacing things, and feeling a bit off, even though he was sleeping and eating well. After a closer look at his medication and diet, his doctor realized that his daily kale habit was throwing his blood thinner levels completely out of balance. So what's the takeaway here? It doesn't mean you have to eliminate kale forever. If you enjoy it, you can still include it in your meals. But it's important to know your body and your medications. Try cooking your kale instead of eating it raw, steaming, or sautéing. It helps reduce those goitrogenic compounds. And rotate it with other greens like cooked spinach or romaine lettuce, which tend to be gentler on the thyroid and medication interactions. At this stage in life, eating isn't just about filling your plate. It's about protecting your clarity, your memory, and your independence. And sometimes that means rethinking even the healthiest sounding foods. Next, we'll move on to a vegetable that looks harmless, sweet, vibrant, and often served in soups and salads, but one that can quietly cause confusion and cloudiness if eaten too often. Beets. Beautiful to look at, not always. Beautiful for the brain. Beets are one of the most eye-catching vegetables you'll find in any Western kitchen. Their deep ruby red color adds flair to everything from Eastern European soups to fresh summer salads in California. People often love beets for their earthy sweetness and their reputation for boosting energy and supporting blood flow. But as with many things in life, too much of a good thing, especially as we age, can quietly cause more harm than help. One reason is the high nitrate content in beets. Now, nitrates themselves aren't bad. They can convert into nitric oxide in the body, which helps widen blood vessels and lower blood pressure. But here's where it gets tricky. In older adults, especially those with underlying cardiovascular conditions, excess nitric oxide can lead to short-term drops in oxygen to the brain, a condition known as hypoxia. The result? That lightheaded, fuzzy feeling. Trouble concentrating. A vague sense of confusion that's hard to pin down. There's also something else to keep in mind: oxalates. Beets are rich in them. If you've ever had kidney stones or have decreased kidney function, oxalates can build up and create further issues. They can interfere with your body's ability to filter properly, which in turn can impact how well oxygen and nutrients are delivered to your brain. When your brain cells don't get what they need, they don't fire as fast. Your focus slips. Your memory falters. I remember hearing stories from seniors who started drinking beet juice regularly, hoping to feel more energized. At first, many of them did, but soon came the side effects: slight dizziness, headaches, that strange drifting feeling during everyday tasks. One woman said she felt like she was constantly in a fog, even though she thought she was doing everything right. It turned out her daily beet juice, while seemingly healthy, was overwhelming her system. Now, don't get me wrong, beets aren't bad. They can still be part of a balanced diet. But as we age, moderation becomes more important than ever. Cook your beets thoroughly to reduce their oxalate load. Enjoy them in smaller portions, maybe once or twice a week, rather than every day. And if you're thinking of drinking beet juice, check with your doctor, especially if you're on blood pressure medication or have a history of kidney problems. In your younger years, your body might have processed all this without skipping a beat. But now it deserves a bit more thought, a bit more care, because the goal is not just to eat for the sake of being healthy, but to eat for the sake of staying clear, present, and steady. Up next, we'll talk about a vegetable that might be sitting in your fridge right now. It's simple, affordable, and found in nearly every Western kitchen. Most people think it's completely harmless, but for seniors, especially those eating it often, or in certain forms, it might just be clouding the mind without anyone noticing. Cabbage, simple on the surface. Not so simple for the brain. Of all the vegetables in a typical Western kitchen, cabbage might just be the most familiar. Whether it's tossed into a warm winter stew, gently stir-fried, or shredded for a summer coleslaw, cabbage is a go-to for many families. It's affordable, easy to store, and versatile in the kitchen. And on paper, it looks great, rich in vitamin C, vitamin K, and fiber. So, what could possibly go wrong? Well, the answer isn't in how cabbage looks. It's in how it behaves in the body, especially in older adults. Like kale, cabbage contains goitrogens, compounds that can interfere with how your thyroid works, particularly when eaten raw or undercooked. Now, why does that matter for your memory? Because your thyroid controls your metabolism, including how efficiently your brain gets energy. When the thyroid slows down, everything else slows with it. You may start to feel foggy, sluggish, or struggle to find the right words, not because you're aging, but because your body isn't processing food in a way that supports your brain anymore. But that's not the only concern. There's another form of cabbage that's widely popular in Western countries, especially in older generations: fermented cabbage, things like sauerkraut, or pickled cabbage. While fermented foods can be good for digestion, many of them are extremely high in sodium. And sodium, when consumed in excess, raises blood pressure, tightens blood vessels, and over time reduces blood flow to the brain. Several studies, including one from Harvard, have shown that seniors who eat high-sodium fermented foods more than 3 times per week are at increased risk for memory issues. It doesn't mean sauerkraut is evil, but it does mean that even comfort foods need to be eaten with awareness. Think about it. If you're already on medication for high blood pressure and you're adding more salt through your cabbage dishes, your heart and brain are working overtime just to keep up. That may show up as forgetfulness, mental fatigue, or even mild disorientation that creeps in gradually. Does that mean you need to give up cabbage completely? Not at all. It just means changing how you prepare and enjoy it. Instead of eating it raw or fermented all the time, try roasting it with olive oil, herbs, and garlic, or steam it lightly until tender. These methods reduce the goitrogens and avoid the salt overload while still letting you enjoy the flavors you love. At this stage of life, it's not about following every new diet rule. It's about listening to what your brain and body are trying to tell you. When you feel sharper, more focused, more present, that's your sign you're feeding yourself well. In the final part of our conversation, we'll gently bring everything together, not to overwhelm, but to remind you that you have more control over your brain health than you may think. Let's wrap things up with a little encouragement and a few simple ways to move forward with confidence. So here we are after walking through 3 everyday vegetables, kale, beets, and cabbage, that many believe to be brain-friendly, but which can actually make memory decline faster when eaten the wrong way. But here's the thing. This isn't about fear. It's not about turning your fridge upside down or swearing off everything you enjoy. It's about awareness. It's about noticing how food affects you now, not 10 years ago, not last year, but today. Because after 60, food is no longer just about flavor. It becomes a tool, a way to protect your clarity, your independence, and the moments that matter most. Whether it's remembering your grandchild's birthday, following a recipe without second-guessing, or simply feeling clear-headed enough to enjoy your morning coffee, that's the kind of memory worth protecting. If you found yourself feeling forgetful, lately struggling to focus, or just not as mentally sharp as you once were, maybe it's not just getting older. Maybe it's time to take another look at what's on your plate. Sometimes, the smallest adjustment, swapping out one ingredient, cooking something differently, eating a little less of something, can make a surprising difference in how you feel day to day. And I'd love to hear from you. Have you noticed certain foods affect your focus or memory? Or maybe you've found a favorite brain-friendly meal that makes you feel more alert. Share your thoughts in the comments. We're all learning from each other here. If you found this video helpful, please take a second to click like. It helps this message reach others who might quietly be going through the same thing. And if you'd like to join me for more conversations like this, simple, honest, and focused on staying well with age, don't forget to hit subscribe. Growing older can sometimes feel like a quieter chapter, but you're not alone. Every small choice you make, especially around how you eat, can help you stay mentally present, emotionally steady, and physically strong. You deserve that peace. You deserve that clarity. And if today you choose one small change in your kitchen, that's already a beautiful start.